what would you do whilst traveling if you didn't actually have to drive? In other words, if with an autonomous car, how would you structure your time? We're talking all things autonomous transport, and I'm John Harris, and welcome to another episode of Exponential Radio. By the end of next year, they're expecting about 10% of vehicles in America to be driverless. So there's a huge growth path going on here. Some of the positives, negatives, and other things that we're going to chat about. Unfortunately, there's always negatives as well as positives, and we have to keep a balance when we think about these things. But there may be an opportunity for you to get involved in some way, some respect here. For example, we've looked at Uber and the taxi industry, how taxi drivers are being displaced with Uber. But now we get into autonomous cars, so what happens to Uber? They're going to have to buy a lot of cars, but everybody else can buy a car and let it do taxi work for them. So these are things you're going to have to think about. Some of the other positive things, obviously safety, the big increase in safety. Human beings tend to do all sorts of things while driving. We know that they can get involved in putting on makeup, hair, arguments, and all sorts of things. Whilst you're driving, you can be doing, if it's driverless, you can do work, you can have entertainment. I mean, Sony has teamed up with Tesla for the future with their gaming and so on and so forth, that you can structure time differently whilst you're traveling. It's really, really interesting how you're going to structure that time. Obviously, they're looking at a positive effect on the environment. You can be driving more effectively, routing more effectively, and obviously looking at what types of vehicles down the line we're going to be using, whether they're hybrids or how it's all going to unfold. Less stress is a big one because, as we've seen, stresses and road rage is really becoming a really big issue as we get more and more drivers on the road. So we're hoping that, we know that this will obviously reduce stress. Another very important thing is for the aged, giving mobility to those that can't drive anymore, and for the handicapped. There it will play a very positive role, something that we can look forward to. And then the introduction of EVs. Though we've seen that Tesla is on a massive path to producing a huge number of vehicles, although it's been a tougher year for them, but many of the other manufacturers have actually stopped producing EVs. So it's not an easy thing to do, and I guess it depends on how it all unfolds, but there was a big drive. There's hydrogen as well, so there are other forms of transportation that are more efficient, should we say, or being able to utilize cleaner energy. Some of the other things we can look at, really on the side of being positive, it would be really something that we could utilize to create more enjoyment whilst driving. On the negatives, we can think about things like job losses. Obviously, we're looking at the taxi industry and various others, transport drivers and so forth, distribution, how that's going to change. The insurance industry, there's going to be a reduction in pricing on the insurance and payments, because it's going to obviously be a lot more efficient, effective if we've got to use autonomous cars. Also, the people involved in all the subsidiary industries around that assist with that are also going to be wondering about their work. And depending how the EVs go, those are too, a lot of the mechanics will also be looking at what they're going to be doing. So there's a lot of things, disruption coming as we go forward. There'll be less revenue for government on fines, which is good for the people, the driving, those that are in vehicles, should I say, and not so good for governments. The legal regulatory environment is going to have to change radically, because we're going to have to adjust and adapt for all of these changes within many spheres of these exponential platforms and technologies. So this autonomous vehicles, in California, they already got specific licensing going out, and it'll have to see how it unfolds, because the rest of the country and the states is going to have to be doing that, and other places around the world, who all have their own internal legal structures that are going to have to adjust. One of the big problems is that governments are not really adapting or adjusting fast enough. Never mind governments, we the people can hardly keep up with it. So some other negative things is this control. no-go areas, or not wanting you to go, perhaps to do certain rallies for certain political parties. There could be a lot of interference there, and control is another negative. And lastly, hacking. I know Tesla's fortunate does its own in-house hardware and software, so it has a pretty powerful regime of security. But with AI, the advent of AI, and a lot of the dubious parties out there, they're going to have some incredible prevention of hacking, because people have hacked into one of the manufacturers, into their car, autonomous car, and this is not a good thing. So that is something to think about. Look, obviously we're going to have things that, as you become more mobile, you basically can be in a wonderful environment. You can actually have it as a mobile office, your vehicle. Again, we've mentioned in trucking, you can have one driver there if you need be, and 5 massive vehicle semis behind him, or totally autonomous. So these are things where your productivity is going to jump. Shipping, we know that well, specifically Tesla, the airline's looking at the shipping industry to go electrical there, and we'll have to see what happens with flying vehicles. I'm not sure how successful they're going to be, but even with space travel, tourism, and so forth, we'll have to see how that current transport takes off. So those are some things to think about within this industry, and it is exciting. It'd be wonderful to sit in a Tesla and be able to just enjoy yourself as you go off or do some work. This would be very, very nice. But we'll see how it unfolds. We'll see how governments, how quick they manage to respond, and how much uptake there is. Anyway, as usual, you can go get your back episodes, anything else of interest that we've spoken about. You can look on John Arthur Harris at blogspot.com, and we will see you in the next episode.